Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 12:26 p.m. on the 28th. Let me just check. Yes, 28th of January 2026, and today is Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? I've lost a day from all the stress yesterday. Yes, it's definitely Wednesday. I'm a bit confused because I haven't heard the garbage trucks, which is the regular occurrence that happens on a Wednesday. And sometimes I measure time by who comes and goes from the Sacred Space Garden or what's happening around the neighbourhood. So anyway, I've come out in the garden under the shade of the frangipani tree, and I've brought the birdie boys outside. They haven't been out for a few days, so they're very happy and contented and watching me. And Kermie's eating his sunflower seed mix that he loves, and Bo's sitting on the top rung of that ladder just watching me. He's a sweet little bird. He cried when I brought him out today. He was squealing, and I was like, what's the matter? You love it out in the garden. But once I put him in this cage and put him on top of the swing, and he realised I'm going in the garden, he settled down immediately. So he's a sweet little bird. I'm very fond of them both. When I carry them out in the big dusting mitts I used to catch them with, I give them lots of kisses on just above their ear, and they love that. Kermie really likes it, even leans his ear in now. It's getting used to the smooches. They only get smooched when I'm bringing them in and out to try and alleviate their fear and anxiety about being held in my gloved hands. And or one day maybe they'll be tame like Charlie, and then they'll sit on my bare hands and they won't have so much anxiety. One can only hope, but I really have to spend more time putting my hands in and training them. But don't fancy being bitten either, to be frank. Charlie copped me a beauty one day. Not Charlie, Bo copped me a beauty one day, and I bled quite a lot. So we've got deceptively very, very sharp little beaks. But look, they don't shy away from me as much as they used to when I first brought them into my life. So they are taming down in their own time frames and at their own pace. And I think that's for the best, because I want them to love me authentically, not feel entrained, and so there's always that feeling of bloody antipathy. It's a bit like that with romantic relationships too. You want people to love you for you, not because of what they hope to gain out of their abuse dynamics or control dramas. Yuck. But anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful day today. Little tiny bit cooler than yesterday. It's 30 degrees, so it's still hot, but it's summer. And I spoke to some women in the lift going down to the bus, 2 women, and I said, wasn't it yesterday, the day before yesterday, it was a killer 37 degrees. And then one of the women said, it didn't bother me too much. I come from up North Queensland. I said, I don't know how you do it. And the other lady was Asian, very pretty woman, very pretty. She had a lovely face and she was smiling. I could see she had lots of tests in a bag coming from the hospital, so obviously not well, but she was not giving off any signals of distress. She was just emanating some kind of peace and great joy. sometimes does not bode well when someone's reached that level of acceptance, to be honest. But I saw that she was happy and lovely, And she too said, oh yes, it's been so hot. And we were rejoicing in the aircon and the lift going down to the bus. So I had these little interactions with people yesterday that were quite beautiful and delightful. So while the birdie boys are busy eating and listening into me talking to you and soon to be reading to you, they really are quite active. They're not sulking like they have been for the last few days. They sulk when they can't go outside. That's how much they love it. Perhaps that's why he was screaming at me to tell me off for not putting them out the last few days. But yesterday I knew I was going to be out most of the day, so I can't leave them out here unattended in case of snakes or random dogs jumping the fences or people stealing them or whatever untoward events that might occur, sudden thunderstorms and rain or high winds, or anything can happen when you're not home. So they were stuck inside all day yesterday, and they were very pleased when I got home. Still a bit sulky, but they perked up when I got home. And the day before we were all sitting around like dying rats because it was just too hot even for the birds. Even the wild birds were very quiet 2 days ago. They must have all hunkered down in as much shade or in their hollows or wherever they go to sit out the heat waves. It's hard for the birds and the wild animals. No air conditioning out there, people of Earth. So we mustn't take our creature comforts for granted because we're very lucky to have them. We're also a bit bloody spoilt because if we didn't have them, we'd have to acclimatise. But I was dying, literally feeling like I was going to die before the gift of the aircon. It was just too much in my little house because the walls are asbestos and they hold the heat in even more. So it was a wonderful gift, and I'm grateful for it to this very day. Thank you to my benefactor. I don't know if she watches my videos, but she knows I'm grateful. So, Kemi, what are you biting that for? No, that's not for biting. It's biting the canvas cover I've got to put shade over their cage. What are you doing that for, you mad bird? Because I can, Mamatik. I'm a parrot, and that's what parrots do. Rip things apart with their beaks. But you've got all your toys down there that you can rip apart. I know, but this is something different. You're so cheeky, Kermie. You're such a cheeky bird. He says, I know, right? So let us continue with part 2 of my family and other animals. That is what it was called, isn't it? Keep forgetting. Yes, my family and other animals. And I read you the quote yesterday, but I'll repeat it because why not? Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. It's very true. It's why Jewish people are so particularly fond of hospitality and showing kindness to the stranger, because you don't know who you're dealing with, you don't know who they might be, why they have come into your energy at that point of time. So one must be considerate and respectful. But when that man asked me to take him and his dog home, it was funny, but it was just a little bit crossing my boundaries, so there is that. But I was very kind to his dog, because working dogs need kindness. All dogs need kindness, and birdies, and pussycats. Every creature on earth responds to basic bloody rights and kindness. Right, Bo, are you a happier boy now that you're out in the garden? He's got his crest up and he's looking around and he's looking very, very masterful, actually. Or masterful. He's got the whole world in his claw. Right. Chapter 7. I don't know what's happening. I did scrub my teeth, but they're not looking right, are they? I need to go to a dentist. I've got a broken tooth that needs building up, and I need to go to a dentist. They keep sending me home without treatment too. What can you do? It's a nightmare. Fucking nightmare. Right. And if I go there and hold my ground next time, start screaming about them sending me home without treatment, 3 times it's happened now, I'll end up in the fucking psych ward. End up in the psych ward. You know what they'll do to me in there. So, oh well, I'm not in any pain even though the tooth's completely smashed and jagged and broken. It's clearly a nerve is dead, or I'll be writhing in agony all these last few months. But I'm very annoyed that they lied to my face and said that they would, refer me to their specialist for fixing that tooth, and then nothing happened. Lies, liars, gaslighters to your face, professional dentists. It's utterly shameful, isn't it? Utterly disgraceful and shameful. They make lots of money working for the government, being paid to lie to the poor people who need treatment. Disgraceful. I know. Doesn't make me popular as a government whistleblower, but the truth remains the truth, no matter how many ways you cut and splice it. People of Earth. What you looking at, little Bo? The big truck's making noises. Hopefully he'll go soon. Kind of biding a bit of time, waiting for him to go. It's not going anywhere because it's a forklift. Ah well, we'll carry on regardless, with or without, how we think things should be done and dealt with and incorporated, and going to manic denial. Read stories on YouTube before that. Living the dream. Right, chapter 7. The Daffodil-Yellow Villa. The new villa was enormous, a tall, square Venetian mansion with faded daffodil-yellow walls, green shutters and a fox red roof. Someone got their way with his mother, didn't he? Clever. It stood on a hill overlooking the sea, surrounded by unkempt olive groves and silent orchards of lemon and orange trees. The whole place had an atmosphere of ancient melancholy about it. The house with its cracked and peeling walls, its tremendous echoing rooms, its verandas piled high with drifts of last year's leaves. Excuse me. And so overgrown with creepers, there we go again. And so overgrown with creepers and vines that the lower rooms were in a perpetual green twilight. That sounds pretty though, especially in a hot climate. Should grow creepers and vines all over my windows too. Well, I did. The dragon fruit started growing into the window. I had to rip it down. It's damaging the screen and becoming a nuisance. The little walled and sunken garden that ran along one side of the house, its wrought iron gates scabby with rust, had roses, anemones, geraniums sprawling across the weed-grown paths, and the shaggy, untended tangerine trees, kind of looks like my hair right now, were so thick with flowers that the scent was almost overpowering. Beyond the garden, the orchards were still and silent, except for the hum of bees and an occasional splutter of birds among the leaves. Are you singing to, little boy? Are you singing to the birdies? You're singing to the birds. Good boy. The house and land were gently, sadly decaying, lying forgotten on the hillside overlooking the shining sea and the dark, eroded hills of Albania. It was as though villa and landscape were half asleep, lying there drugged in the spring sunshine, giving themselves up to the moss, the ferns, and the crowds of tiny toadstools. Look at this. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Freshly washed yesterday and it's flying everywhere like my nervous state. Well, like cures like, as they say. Shut up, Davidson. If you haven't been to my channel before, David Davidson is the homeopath former lover that still haunts me from time to time. But that was a joke. He's not here. I just couldn't help laughing about my homeopath reference. Right. It was Spiro, of course, who had found the place and who organised our move with the minimum of fuss and the maximum of efficiency. Starting to like Spiro. It's coming in very handy indeed, isn't it? Within 3 days of seeing the villa for the first time, the long wooden carts were trailing in a dusty procession along the roads, piled high with our possessions, and on the 4th day we were installed. At the edge of the estate was a small cottage inhabited by the gardener and his wife, an elderly, a rather decrepit pair who seemed to have decayed with the estate. His job was to fill the water tanks, pick the fruit, crush the olives, and get severely stung once a year extracting honey from the 17 beehives that simmered beneath the lemon trees. But why is he getting stung? Because the bees would be used to him, and you wear all that equipment to protect you, don't you? And you smoke them out. I mean, I know that much. Maybe they still sting. I know that when a beekeeper dies, his family members, either the wife or one of the adult children or, member of the family, it's called singing the bees. They have to go out and they have to talk to the bees and tell them that the beekeeper has died. It's a tradition. The bees get terribly upset. They don't like change. The beekeeper doesn't come all of a sudden for whatever reason. There's anarchy and chaos. So they sing the bees. It's lovely, isn't it? Maybe, maybe I'll have bees in the near future. But they're native bees. They're teeny tiny little bees. Gosh, another big massive truck excavating. They're building so many houses on my street. 2 more going up. It's constant building. Oh well. I thought I had schmutz on my face, but it's on the screen. It's hilarious. Let me just reach up. Try and get it off. Right, there we go. In a moment of misguided enthusiasm, a mother engaged the gardener's wife to work for us in the villa. Her name was Lucrezia, and she was a thin, lugubrious individual whose hair was forever coming adrift from the ramparts of pins and combs with which she kept it attached to her skull. Give it up, darling. Just let it all blow wild and crazy like mine after a while. You just give it all up. It's looking very healthy at the moment, I must say. It's a good sign. When I'm not well, my hair gets all lank and oily and horrible looking and almost slimy. It's It's how I know things are not well with me internally. So it's a good sign how healthy my hair is. Well, the skin is another matter though. Going to get myself some high doses of vitamin C. It can't hurt. Knock myself off my socks one way or the other, people of Earth. Right. She was extremely sensitive, as mother soon discovered. A trauma survivor, very likely. And the slightest criticism of her work, however tactfully phrased, would make her brown eyes swim with tears in an embarrassing display of grief. Bless. It was such a heart-rending sight to watch that mother very soon gave up criticising her altogether. There was only one thing in life that could bring a smile to Lucrezia's gloomy countenance, a glint to her spaniel eyes, and that was a discussion of her ailments. Where most people are hypochondriacs as a hobby, I shouldn't laugh. Lucrezia had turned it into a full-time occupation. When we took up residence, it was her stomach that was worrying her. Bulletins on the state of her stomach would start at 7 in the morning when she brought up the tea. She would move from room to room with the trays, giving each one of us a blow-by-blow account of her nightly bout with her inside. She was a master of the art of graphic description, groaning, gasping, doubling up in agony, stamping about the rooms. She would give us such a realistic picture of her suffering that we would find our own stomachs aching in sympathy. "Can't you do something about that woman?" Larry asked Mother one morning after Lucrezia's stomach had been through a particularly bad night. "What do you expect me to do?" she asked. "I gave her some of your bicarbonate of soda. That probably accounts for her bad night." "Sounds like she's got gallstones. Ask me how I know." They all got rather sick of me complaining about writhing in agony too. It's nasty, isn't it? When you're genuinely ill and you're invalidated. Very nasty. Even nastier when your doctors do it to you. Right. Even nastier when you're being wheeled into surgery and they decide to start fighting you when you're just about to undergo, major surgery and anaesthetic. And he was right though, that red-headed doctor. I did die briefly after that surgery. Briefly. Don't know how long I was dead for, probably only about 20 seconds or 30, I have no idea. But enough to give me a god-awful fright, and for the spirits to tell me they were sending me back to a hellscape of epic proportions. But don't worry, because I'll be okay. Funny bastards, aren't they, my spirit people? Very bloody funny. They happen to be right, though. They got that right, by the gods. 6 months later, COVID was unleashed on our world. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. You'd think they would speak to me without killing me, though, Is it really necessary to completely shut all my functioning down for them to communicate with me? It's why I allow it when they interrupt my readings with channelings from time to time, because at least I'm alive while that's happening. They haven't waited till I was knocked off my socks by anaesthetic and my respiratory system shutting down to then communicate with me. It's a bit rude when you think about it. So you want to communicate, but appropriately at the appointed time when I open up to them and allow that opportunity for two-way communication between myself and the spirit world. What do? Make me look like a crazy person by jumping in on my reading of stories. Fortunately, I'm not the least bit bothered about looking like a crazy person, because the spirits want to do that and have something important to say. Then I've built enough of a relationship with them over the years to know that who am I to argue with the gods, or God in the manifestations of holiness. Something has to be said, which has to be said, people of Earth. He's a good boy, Kermie. You're a very happy bird being out in the garden. I'm sure she doesn't eat properly, said Margot. What she probably wants is a good diet. Nothing short of a bayonet would do her stomach any good, said Larry caustically. And I know During the last week, I have become distressingly familiar with every tiny convolution of her larger intestine. I know she's a bit trying, said Mother, but after all, the poor woman is obviously suffering. Nonsense, said Leslie. She enjoys every minute of it, like Larry does when he's ill. Well, anyway, said Mother hurriedly, we'll just have to put up with her. There's no one else we can get locally. I'll get Theodore to look her over next time he comes out. If all she told me this morning was true, said Larry, you'll have to provide him with a pick and a miner's lamp. Larry, don't be disgusting, said Mother severely. Shortly afterwards, to our relief, Lucrezia's stomach got better, but almost immediately her feet gave out, and she would hobble pitifully round the house, groaning loudly and frequently. Larry said that Mother hadn't hired a maid, but a ghoul, and suggested buying her a ball and chain. He pointed out that this would at least let us know when she was coming and allow us time to escape, for Lucrezia had developed the habit of creeping up behind one and groaning loudly and unexpectedly in one's ear. My ex-husband used to do the very same thing. It was very annoying. A whale song at the Queensland Museum. Stand underneath them if you want to get an idea of what I used to put up with for 10.5 years, 12 if you count the courtship and the engagement. I mean, if you're going to be a moaner and a groaner, I mean, at least we can give them a high five on committing to the task. Right, next. I moan though now. Old age. Old age makes you a bit thick and festy, people of Earth. But a blind man's Labrador invited me home yesterday. We'll blame it on the dog, shall we? Dog's killing. Help me, help me. I should have taken the dog home, but I can't deprive a blind man of his guide dog, can I? That would be unreasonable. Anyway. What would I do lolloping around the backyard with a guide dog? He'd be running free and carefree, living his best life. That'd be his idea of heaven. He'd probably, the dog I mean, sensed my spirit of loving freedom and sucking it up like a sponge. Larry started having breakfast in his bedroom after the morning when Lucrezia took off her shoes in the dining room in order to show us exactly which toes were hurting. Sounds kind of like arthritis, doesn't it? I suppose she's on her feet all day being a maid. It's hard work. It's tiring work. But apart from Lucrezia's ailments, there were other snags in the house. The furniture, which we had rented from the villa, was a fantastic collection of Victorian relics that had been locked in the rooms for the past 20 years. They crouched everywhere, ugly, ungainly, unpractical, creaking hideously to each other and shedding bits of themselves with loud cracks like musket shots, accompanied by clouds of dust if you walked past them too heavily. I love antique furniture. I've still got a couple of nice antique pieces from my mother. They are a bit, not ugly, they're lovely, but they are a bit ungainly. But you know what? Real timber furniture is way better than that IKEA or, plastic crap that they sell in the shops, contemporary modern furniture shops. It's awful. It's all toxic, sweating fucking formaldehyde, and you're breathing it in and it's getting into your skin. I got rid of all of that. The only piece of that kind of plastic coated furniture is a filing cabinet I actually bought in IKEA when my kids were still little. So I've had that for about 25 years now. It's lasted well, but that's the only piece of their furniture I kept. I got rid of everything. Everything in my house, furniture-wise, is timber. The fairies like it better too, having a natural environment to float in and out of when they come and go occasionally through the house. Real wood, people, real timber. And at least when it gets too old and rotten, you can burn it. That other stuff, it's just a toxic wasteland from beginning to end of cycle. Awful, awful. And you're breathing that all in and absorbing it when you sit on it or touch it. It's vile. Real timber, people of Earth. And I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because this isn't a natural fibre, but preferably wear natural fibres too, linen and cotton and wool. Although in the Old Testament and the Torah you're not supposed to wear linen and wool together for some weird reason that I don't really understand the rationale behind that. You're supposed to keep them separate. But real wool, real cotton, organic cotton if you can afford it, linen, silk, everything that is natural on your skin. I'm itching, my skin cancers are itching. They really should have been treated yesterday, but I knew they wouldn't do it. But I said to them, look, will be happy and grateful if you put me in on the waiting list so that they get seen to in the next, they said 2 to 3 months. So I'm suffering from pain in my Achilles heels, the bone running down the back. Don't know what that's about. Some kind of arthritic thing. It's very painful. Oh, I don't want to whine because I don't want to be like Lucrezia. Nobody likes a whiner, do they? Right. Penny. Bye. Pretty boy. You're so handsome, little pretty boy. Such a big personality. Even though he's smaller than Kearney, he just emanates presence. Right. The first evening the leg came off the dining room table, that would be annoying, cascading the food onto the floor. Some days later, Larry sat down on an immense and solid-looking chair, only to have the back disappear in a cloud of acrid dust. When Mother went to open a wardrobe the size of a cottage and a wardrobe the size of a cottage? And the entire... I'd love my fantasies if I ever got wealthy is I'd have a walk-in wardrobe. Perhaps not the size of a cottage though, but a big walk-in wardrobe with lighting, storage cupboard, cabinets. Be cool, wouldn't it? Dear goddess. Anyway, where was I? And the entire door came away in her hand. She decided that something must be done. My goodness. We simply can't have people to stay in a house where everything comes to bits if you look at it, she said. There's nothing for it. We'll have to buy some new furniture. Really? Excuse me. Oh, these guests are going to be the most expensive we've ever had. Well, not really. You get to enjoy the furniture when they're gone, don't you? It's not just for the guests, it's for you. Negative thinking. Mother. Oh. But who doesn't like nice, new, fresh furniture? Right. The next morning, Spiro drove Mother, Margot and myself into the town to buy furniture. What was that? Something stuck to my finger. Right. We noticed that the town was more crowded, more boisterous than usual, but it never occurred to us that anything special was happening until we had finished bargaining with the dealer and made our way out of his shop into the narrow, twisted streets. We were jostled and pushed as we struggled to get back to the place where we had left the car. The crowd grew thicker and thicker, and the people were so tightly wedged together that we were carried forward against our will. I don't know what's happening to me. Coughing, sneezing, plutzing, futzing, schwitzing, and plitzing. I made the plitzing word up. It goes with plutzing. I think there must be something going on, said Margot observantly. Maybe it's a... I wish they'd just fuck off sometimes. I do. What can you do? Trucks. Maybe it's a fiesta or something interesting. I don't care what it is as long as we get back to the car, said Mother. But we were swept along in the opposite direction to the car and eventually pushed out to join a vast crowd assembled in the main square of the town. I asked an elderly peasant woman near me what was happening, and she turned to me, her face lit up with pride. It is Saint Spiridion, Kyria, she explained. Today we may enter the church and kiss his feet. I guess you have to be Greek Orthodox to understand why that might seem so wonderful. No judgment, I get it. The saints like to be kissed. Who doesn't? Even my birdies like their kisses. I saw that Kermie and that was not good. Bad bird. Bad bird. He's like, I don't care. I do what I want, whatever. Very bad bird. Bo says, you tell him, Mama T. Right. Saint Spiridion was the patron saint of the island. His mummified body was enshrined in a silver... Oh, I don't want to kiss the feet of a mummified body. That's just gross, people of Earth. Ugh! Some people drink the remains of mummies. So are you out of your mind? Ugh! Sickos. Right, anyway. His mummified body was enshrined in a silver coffin in the church. And once a year he was carried in procession round the town. That sounds like the king parrots are here. Can't see them, but... oh well. He was very powerful and could grant requests, cure illness, do a number of other wonderful things for you if he happened to be in the right mood when asked. Seems reasonable. I'm still not kissing your feet, Saint Spiridion, because I'm Jewish and it's just gross. Where are you? Come out and show me where you are, crazy birds. Come on. Yes, you. It's a strange bird call. I don't think it's a king parrot. Something else. I'm going to go and investigate. I've got to know. Mama T has to know. One moment. They must camouflage really well because I can't see them. I stood right under the tree and looked up, and there's more than one. Can't see it, can't even see, the rustling in the leaves or anything. It's a bit odd, isn't it? Anyway, whatever birdies they are, they're very happy doing their thing. I see a bit of activity over that distant branch there, but still can't see it. So yes, they must be camouflaged. Right, I'll carry on with the story, people of Earth. Where were we? Kissing Saint Spiridion's feet. Where are you now? You've come to see me. Oh, it's some kind of rosella, I think. Lovely. The islanders worshipped him, and every second male on the island was called Spiro in his honour. You've got friends out in the forest, my boys, come to see you. It's because you're very special biddies, Bo and Kermie. Yes. Very special birdies indeed. I still can't see them though. It's weird. It's much closer too. Today was a special day. Apparently they would open the coffin and allow the faithful to kiss the slippered feet of the mummy and make any request they cared to. It's quite delightful, isn't it, how I live in this garden with the birds? Very delightful. The composition of the crowd showed how well loved the saint was by the Corfians. There were elderly peasant women in their best black clothes, and their husbands, hunched as olive trees, with sweeping white moustaches. There were fishermen, bronzed and muscular, with the dark stains of octopus ink on their shirts. There were the sick too, the mentally defective, the consumptive, the crippled old people who could hardly walk, and babies wrapped and bound like cocoons, their pale, waxy little faces crumpled up as they coughed and coughed. Poor darlings. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It's coming closer. Oh, that one's a scaly-breasted lorikeets. Why I couldn't see them because of the camouflage. Very lovely. There were even a few tall, wild-looking Albanian shepherds, moustached and with shaven heads, wearing great sheepskin cloaks. This great, multicoloured wedge of humanity moved slowly towards the dark door of the church, and we were swept along with it, wedged like pebbles in a lava flow. By now Margot had been pushed well ahead of me, while Mother was equally far behind. I was caught firmly between 5 fat peasant women who pressed on me like cushions and exuded sweat and garlic. I was going to say, probably didn't mind the cushioning, but he wouldn't have liked the sweat and the garlic. While Mother was hopelessly entangled between 2 of the enormous Albanian shepherds. Steadily, firmly, we were pushed up the steps and into the church. Inside, It was dark as a well, lit only by a bed of candles that bloomed like yellow crocuses along one wall. I'm getting a terrible earache. Go to the hospital yesterday. Now I develop an earache. Wow, it is what it is, isn't it? That's the thing about being in hospitals. You worry about picking up something when you're there. Dear Goddess. Well, must think positive. Must think positive. We'll push that away. It's probably from all the stress I went and put myself under with my fucked up nervous system. It's no one's fault but mine. I did try everything. I tried mindfulness, I tried deep breathing, I tried depersonalization, but as the day wore on, I got more and more ragged. It's when I realised there's a reason why I can't be out, function in the workforce or be in any large groups of people for extended periods of time. I used to manage with the dancing, once a week. But, I'd have a couple of Jack Daniels to get myself through that. And, the live music and the happiness from dancing, it's, used to help me cope a bit. But even then it would get wearing on my nerves. People were aggressive or fucking creepy around me. So in a way I'm glad that I'm not dancing anymore. I need my own space. My own psychic space, my own mental space, and my own physical space. Right, what's that little birdie doing now? Eating the flowers of the... Oh, he's above my head. Hello. Hello, little scaly-breasted lorikeet. You're eating the umbrella fruits. Oh, there's your mate. There's two of you. How lovely that you've come to see us at Sacred Space. Says, we're here for the umbrella fruits. We're not interested in you, Mama T. You're boring to us. Yes, I'm sure I am. Right, you are. I don't take it personally, you understand. Birdies do what birdies do, and humans do what humans do. Right, let's read that again. Inside it was dark as a well, lit only by a bed of candles that bloomed like yellow crocuses along one wall. A bearded, tall-hatted priest clad in black robes flapped like a crow in the gloom, making the crowd form into a single line that filed down the church past the great silver coffin. That would be pretty to see, actually, the silver coffin. And out through another door into the street. They're very Twitter-pated, those two. The coffin was standing upright, looking like a silver chrysalis, and at its lower end a portion had been removed, so that the saint's feet, clad in the richly embroidered slippers, peeked out. I still wouldn't want to kiss its feet, but I guess if you think you're dying, you'll try anything, won't you? And the gods don't particularly care what religion you follow, as long as you have faith in Creator, source field, or the Ein Sof All, or however you want to name that energy. They're not fussy. They don't withhold healing because you're not religious or don't believe in God. It's not whether you believe in God, it's whether God believes in you. It's a bit of a symbiotic relationship at times, but it can be a difficult one. It's very difficult when God has his thumb upon you trust me, ask me how I know. Mr. Crow's just arrived too, which is probably why Bo's twittering. Hello, Mr. Crow. Right. As each person reached the coffin, he bent, kissed the feet, and murmured a prayer, while at the top of the sarcophagus the saint's black and withered face peered out of a glass panel with an expression of acute distaste. It became evident that, whether we wanted to or not, we were going to kiss Saint Spiridian's feet. I might have balked at that. I'm not very fond of corpses and, mummified things. I did really enjoy when the Egyptian exhibit came out many years ago. I went to it with my mother, actually, in one of our periods between estrangements. She was very good to me that day. She behaved herself. It was a very pleasant afternoon with the children. We had a nice day. I'll give her that. I can remember that one fucking nice day. She was capable of it, She put in the effort. Unbelievable, isn't it? Fucking narcissists. But they're unpredictable and they're manipulative and cunning and vile. But anyway, we did have that nice day. We were at the Queensland Museum and they had a wonderful exhibition from Egypt. They had a mummy in her sarcophagus, which was a beautiful sarcophagus. It wasn't as nice as Tutankhamun's, but it was equally, very ornate. We took a lot of time, my mother and I, walking round and round that. We were both fascinated. And then they had a picture of the mummy, all wrapped up. Or am I remembering that wrong? I think they had the mummy outside of the sarcophagus. You could see all the wrappings and the shape of the person. It was a woman. Mum and I I don't know, it was odd. We really, both of us kind of bonded over that. But anyway, but I would have drawn the line if someone had said, kiss it, not my bag. However, if you're, terminal cancer or some other illness, you'll try anything, even kiss the feet of a dead saint. As each person kissed, where were we? It became evident whether we wanted to or not, we were going to kiss Saint Spiridian's feet. I looked back and saw Mother making frantic efforts to get to my side, but the Albanian bodyguard would not give an inch, and she struggled ineffectually. Presently she caught my eye and started to grimace and point at the coffin, shaking her head vigorously. I was greatly puzzled by this, and so were the two Albanians, who were watching her with undisguised suspicion. I think they came to the conclusion that Mother was about to have a fit, and with some justification, for she was scarlet in the face, and her grimaces were getting wilder and wilder. At last, in desperation, she threw caution to the winds and hissed at me over the heads of the crowd. Tell Margot not to kiss. Kiss the air. Kiss the air. I get it. I would have probably done the same. I turned to deliver a mother's message to Margot, but it was too late. There she was, crouched over the slippered feet, kissing them with an enthusiasm that enchanted and greatly surprised the crowd. When it came to my turn, I obeyed Mother's instructions. Kissing loudly and with a considerable show of reverence, a point some 6 inches above the mummy's left foot. Then I was pushed along and disgorged through the church door and out into the street, where the crowd was breaking up into little groups, laughing and chattering. Margot was waiting on the steps, looking extremely self-satisfied. The next moment Mother appeared, shot from the door by the brawny shoulders of her shepherds. She staggered wildly down the steps and joined us. "Those shepherds," she exclaimed faintly, "are so ill-mannered. The smell nearly killed me. A mixture of incense and garlic. How do they manage to smell like that?" "Oh, well," said Margot cheerfully, "it'll have been worth it if Saint Spiridion answers my request." "A most insanitary procedure," said Mother, "more likely to spread disease than cure it. I dread to think what we would have caught if we'd really kissed his feet." "But I kissed his feet," said Margot, surprised. "Margot, you didn't." "Well, everyone else was doing it. And after I expressly told you not to." "You never told me not to." I interrupted and explained that I had been too late with Mother's warning. After all, those people have been slobbering over those slippers, and you have to go and kiss them. I was only doing what the others did. I can't think what on earth possessed you to do such a thing." "Well, I thought he might cure my acne." I had a feeling that was the reason. "Acne?" said Mother scornfully. "You'll be lucky if you don't catch something to go with the acne." The next day, Margot went down with a severe attack of influenza, and Saint Spiridion's prestige with Mother reached rock bottom. As Spiro was sent racing into the town for a doctor, and he returned bringing a little dumpy man with patent leather hair, a faint wisp of moustache, and shoe-button eyes behind great horn-rimmed spectacles. This was Dr. Andrucelli. He was a charming man with a bedside manner that was quite unique. "Po, po, po," he said, strutting into the bedroom and regarding Margot with scorn. "Po, po, po. Remarkably unintelligent you have been, not kissing the saint's feet. Po, 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 po. Nearly you might have caught some bugs unpleasant. You are lucky she is influenza. Now you will do as I tell you, and I will rinse my hands of you. And please do not increase my work with such stupidity. If you kiss another saint's feet in the future, I will not come to cure you." "Pooh, pooh, pooh. Is such a thing to do?" I'm actually more worried about the transmigration of souls of a dead saint infesting your auric field than the actual spread of all the staphylococci and E. coli and other revolting germs coming from people who kiss dead people's feet. Maybe E. coli is a bridge too far. That's from faeces, people of Earth, but you just never know, do you? It's just people who don't wash very well, stink of sweat and garlic. Find it equally abhorrent, but it's more the spiritual contamination I'd be worried about. The whole idea that he cures you of all your ills, though, but there's a price always to be paid. Always. It's never that simple as you think. Look what happened to the lovely girls that saw the vision at Fatima, the vision of the Mother Mary. Oh, did they pay a hefty price? I'm going to have to move on into the other table because I'm in the sauna. Skin cancers. Skin cancers. Follow the shade. We will follow the shade, people of Earth. Right, it's a little bit funny sitting on this chair, I don't know why. So while Margot languished in bed for 3 weeks, with Andrew Chelly popoing over her every 2 or 3 days. 3 weeks with influenza, that's a long illness, isn't it? She must have really caught a really nasty bug. The rest of us settled into the villa. What a good doctor to come out to her every 2 to 3 days. Wouldn't happen these days, would it? By the gods. Larry took possession of one enormous attic and engaged 2 carpenters to make bookshelves. Leslie converted the large covered veranda behind the house into a shooting gallery and hung an enormous red flag up outside whenever he was practicing. Mother pottered absent-mindedly round the vast subterranean stone-flagged kitchen, preparing gallons of beef tea and trying to listen to Lugarezia's monologues. I love how I pronounce that. Monologues. I meant monologues, but same thing, different stripes. And worry about Margot at the same time. For Roger and myself, of course, there were 15 acres of garden to explore, a vast new paradise sloping down to the yellow, tepid sea. Sorry, not yellow, shallow. Being temporarily without a tutor, for George had left the island, I could spend the whole day out, only returning to the villa for hurried meals. In this varied terrain so close at hand, I found many creatures which I now regarded as old friends. The rose beetles, the blue carpenter bees, the ladybirds, and the trapdoor spiders. But I also discovered many new beasts to occupy me. In the crumbling walls of the sunken garden lived dozens of little black scorpions, shining and polished as if they had been made out of bakelite, like that lovely black rhinoceros beetle that was gifted to me by the fairy or the spirit world, actually by the crows, because one of them must have killed it. But, you know, close enough. In the fig and lemon trees just below the garden were quantities of emerald green tree frogs, like delicious satiny sweets among the leaves. Up on the hillside lived snakes of various sorts, brilliant lizards and tortoises. In the fruit orchards there were many kinds of birds: goldfinches, greenfinches, redstarts, wagtails, orioles, and an occasional hoopoe, salmon pink, black and white, probing the soft ground with long curved beaks, erecting their crests in astonishment when they saw me, and flying off. Under the eaves of the villa itself, the swallows had taken up residence. They had arrived a short time before we had, and their knobbly mud houses were only just completed, still dark brown and damp like rich plum cake. As these were drying to a lighter biscuit brown, the parent birds were busy lining them, foraging round the garden for rootlets, lamb's wool, or feathers. Two of the swallows' nests were lower than the others, and it was on these that I concentrated my attention. Over a period of days, I leaned a long ladder against the wall midway between the two nests, and then slowly, day by day, I climbed higher and higher until I could sit on the top rung and look into the nests now some 4 feet away from me. The parent birds seemed in no way disturbed by my presence, and continued their stern work of preparing for a family while I crouched on top of the ladder and Roger lay at the bottom. Just going to take a break. I need to excuse myself, but I'll put you facing the birdie boys, and I'll be back shortly. Right, you are people of Earth. Anything exciting happen in the garden while I was quietly indisposed? I guess not. Right, here we go. Let us continue with the story. Sorry about the interruption, by the way. Right. I grew to know these swallow families very well and watched their daily work with considerable interest. What I took to be the two females were very similar in behaviour, earnest, rather preoccupied, over-anxious and fussy. The two males, on the other hand, displayed totally different characters. One of them, during the work of lining the nest, brought excellent material, but he refused to treat it as a job of work. He would come swooping home, carrying a wisp of sheep's wool in his mouth. He means beak, but semantics. And would waste several minutes skating low over the flowers in the garden, drawing figures of 8, or else weaving in and out of the columns that held up the grapevine. His wife would cling to the nest and chitter at him exasperatedly, but he refused to take life seriously. The other female also had trouble with her mate, but it was trouble of a different sort. He was, if anything, over-enthusiastic. He seemed determined to leave no stone unturned in his efforts to provide his young with the finest nest lining in the colony. But unfortunately, he was no mathematician, and try as he would, he could not remember the size of his nest. He would come flying back, twittering in an excited, if somewhat muffled manner, carrying a chicken or turkey feather as big as himself, and with such a thick quill it was impossible to bend it. It would generally take his wife several minutes to convince him that, no matter how they struggled and juggled, the feather would not fit into the nest. Matter of fact, I'm looking at a very nice feather right now. Just wondered what it was for a moment. Acutely disappointed, he would eventually drop the feather so that it whirlpooled down to join the ever-increasing pile on the ground beneath, and then fly off in search of something more suitable. In a little while he would be back, struggling under a load of sheep's wool so matted and hard with earth and dung that he would have difficulty in getting up to the eaves, let alone into the nest. I'm going to pick up that feather. It's grey with little tiny whitish tips. Just one moment. That's what I was seeing. It's rather pretty, isn't it? It's unusual with the grey and the white. It's not from bow, it's too wide. Yes, I found a feather from one of the birds. Don't know what bird it came from. The scrub turkey's feathers are usually black. Isn't it delightful? Yes, well, I quite like that feather, boys. I collect feathers from the garden, whatever the birdies leave for me, or drop, rather. It's not left for me personally, but just dropped. And I delight in them. I think that might be a kookaburra feather because it's got the fluff at the bottom like theirs tend to have, and a bit of white on the tips. Right, the wind's come up, boys. Mama will have to carry on with the story, won't she? When at last the nests were lined, the freckled eggs laid and hatched, the two husbands' characters seemed to change. The one who had brought so much futile nest lining now swooped and hawked about the hillsides in a carefree manner, and would come drifting back carelessly, carrying a mouthful of insect life of just the right size and softness to appeal to his fuzzy, trembling brood. The other male now became terribly harassed and apparently a prey to the dreadful thought that his babies might starve. So he would wear himself to a shadow in the pursuit of food and return carrying the most unsuitable items, such as large spiky beetles, all legs and wing case, and immense, dry, and completely indigestible dragonflies. Why did he do that, the mad bird? He would cling to the edge of the nest and make valiant but vain attempts to get these gigantic offerings around down the ever-open gullets of his young. I dread to think what would have happened if he had succeeded in wedging one of these spiky captures down their throats. Luckily, however, he never succeeded, and eventually, looking more harassed than ever, he would drop the insect to the ground and fly off hurriedly in search of something else. I was very grateful to this swallow, for he provided me with 3 species of butterfly, 6 dragonflies, and 2 ant lions, which were new to my collection. I might have to move into the shade again. There's too much sunlight on me. I'm having trouble staying in the shade. The females, once the young were hatched, behaved in much the same way as they had always done. They flew a little faster. There was an air of brisk efficiency about them, but that was all. It intrigued me to see for the first time the hygienic arrangements of a bird's nest. I had often wondered, when hand-rearing a young bird, why it hoisted its bottom skywards with much waggling when it wanted to excrete. Now I discovered the reason. The excreta of the baby swallows was produced in globules which were coated with mucus that formed what was almost a gelatine packet round the dropping. The young would stand on their heads, waggle their bottoms in a brief but enthusiastic rumba, and deposit their little offering on the rim of the nest. When the females arrived, they would cram the food they had collected down the gaping throats, and then delicately pick up the dropping in their beaks and fly off to deposit it somewhere over the olive groves. It was an admirable arrangement, and I would watch the whole performance, fascinated, from the bottom waggle, which always made me giggle, to the final swoop of the parent over the treetop and the dropping of the little black and white bomb afterwards. Owing to the male swallow's habit of collecting strange and unsuitable insects for his young, I always used to examine the area below the nest twice a day in the hope of finding new specimens to add to my collection. It was here that, one morning, I found the most extraordinary looking beetle crawling about. I did not think that even that mentally defective swallow could have brought such a large creature, or even that he could have caught it, but it was certainly there underneath the colony. It was a large, clumsy, blue-black beetle with a large round head, long jointed antennae, and a bulbous body. The weird thing about it was its wing cases. It looked as though it had sent them to the laundry and they had shrunk, for they were very small and appeared to have been constructed for a beetle half the size. I toyed with the idea that it may have found itself without a pair of clean wing cases to put on that morning, had to borrow its younger brother's pair. But I eventually decided that this idea, however enchanting, could not be described as scientific. I noticed, after I had picked it up, that my fingers smelled faintly acrid and oily, though it had not appeared to have exuded any liquid that I could see. I gave it to Roger to smell, to see if he agreed with me, and he sneezed violently and backed away, so I concluded that it must be the beetle and not my hand. I preserved it carefully so that Theodore could identify it when he came. Now that the warm days of spring had arrived, Theodore would come out to the villa every Thursday for tea, arriving in a horse-drawn cab from the town, his immaculate suit, stiff collar, and Homburg hat making a strange contrast to the nets, bags, and boxes full of test tubes with which he was surrounded. Before tea, we would examine any new specimens I had acquired and identify them. After tea, we would wander about the grounds in search of creatures, or else make what Theodore would call an excursion to some neighbouring pond or ditch in search of new microscopic life for Theodore's collection. He identified my strange beetle with its ill-fitting elytra without much trouble, and proceeded to tell me some extraordinary things about it. "Ah, yes," he said, closely scrutinizing the beast. "It's an oil beetle, Meloe proscarabeus. Forgive my Latin. Yes, they are certainly very curious-looking beetles. What do you say? Ah, yes, the wing cases. Well, you see, they are flightless. There are several species of Coleoptera that have lost the power of flight for one reason or another. It is the life history of this beetle that is very curious. This, of course, is a female. The male is considerably smaller. I should say approximately half the size. It appears that the female lays a number of small yellow eggs in the soil. When these hatch out into larvae, they climb up any flowers nearby and wait inside the blooms. There is a certain type of solitary bee which they must wait for, and when it enters the flower, the larvae hitchhike. Get a good grip with their claws on the bee's fur. If they are lucky, the bee is a female who is collecting honey to put in the cells with her egg. Then as soon as the bee has completed the filling of the cell and lays her egg, the larva jumps off onto the egg and the bee closes the cell. Then the larva eats the egg and develops inside the cell. The only thing that always strikes me as curious is that there is only one species of bee that the larvae prey on. I should have thought that a great many of the larvae catch hold of the wrong species of bee and so eventually die. And then, of course, even if it's the right kind of bee, there is no guarantee that it's a female about to lay eggs. He paused for a moment, raised himself on his toes several times, and thoughtfully contemplated the floor. Then he looked up, his eyes twinkling. "I mean to say," he continued, "it's rather like backing a horse in a race, with the odds heavily against you." I'm getting very tired, people of Earth. Anyway, we'll carry on. Not long to go now. And it's a lovely story. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying myself. I just get very tired. He waggled the glass-topped box gently so that the beetle slid from one end to the other, waving its antennae in surprise. Then he put it carefully back on the shelf among my other specimens. "Talking of horses," said Theodore happily, placing his hands on his hips and rocking gently. "Did I ever tell you about the time when I led the triumphant entry into Smyrna on a white charger? Well, it was in the First World War, you know, and the commander of my battalion was determined that we should march into Smyrna in a triumphal column, led, if possible, by a man on a white horse. Unfortunately, they gave me the doubtful privilege of leading the troops. Of course, I had learned to ride, you know, but I would not consider myself, an expert horseman. Well, everything went very well, and the horse behaved with great decorum until we got into the outskirts of the town. What was that just blew down? I think it's one of Bo's feathers. It's definitely a feather. Oh well. It is custom in parts of Greece, as you know, to throw scent, perfume, rose water, or something of the sort over the conquering heroes. As I was riding along at the head of the column, an old woman darted out of a side street and started to hurl eau de cologne about. The horse did not mind that, but most unfortunately, a small quantity of the scent must have splashed into his eye. Well, he was quite used to parades and so forth and cheering crowds and things, but he was not used to having his eyes squirted full of eau de cologne. It was my mother's favourite perfume for 7-Eleven. Very German thing too. He became most upset about it and was acting more like a circus horse than a charger. I only managed to stay on because my feet had become wedged in the stirrups. The column had to break ranks to try to calm him down, but he was so upset that eventually the commander decided it would be unwise to let him take part in the rest of the triumphal entry. So while the column marched through the main streets with bands playing and people cheering and so forth, I was forced to slink through the back streets on my white horse, both of us, to add insult to injury by now smelling very strongly of eau de cologne. I have never really enjoyed horse riding since then. And thus concludes chapter 7, which was the Daffodil-Yellow villa. And I'll be back tomorrow, no doubt, all things being well, for Mama T being well, with chapter 8, which is also a rather long chapter. It's all good. It's very pleasurable out here in the garden, with all the birdie visitations we get. Lovely feathers being dropped. So, and it truly is a lovely day. I might go and have a bit of a rest, and then I might actually discipline myself, force myself to have a bit of a walk, because it's windy, but it's pleasant. It's a pleasant environment today. There's another feather gone. Are you pulling out your feathers, you mad birds? Stop it. Are we going to do what we want, Mama T? We're birdies. We have to pull out our feathers. Alright, whatever. Anyway, on that note, have a beautiful afternoon, evening, morning, night, wherever you are in the space-time continuum here on planet Earth. Take good care, be of good cheer, and I'll be back tomorrow with more of my family and other animals from the Corfu trilogy. Bye for now.